Superbooth 22. I'm here on the booth of Oberheim. Oberheim is back, and with Marcus Ryle.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So you're bringing back the brand Oberheim and a new instrument. How long did it take? Because when this new chapter of Oberheim?
Well, maybe it's good to go back even earlier. You know, the glory days of Oberheim, sadly, that chapter first ended in 1985 because Tom lost his company. He lost the right to use his name. And although there were some versions of Oberheim after that, it wasn't Tom. And around 2009, Tom, with some encouragement of a number of people, including Roger Lynn, decided to start making SEMs again, the synthesizer expander module, which have been very popular. So he did start back into the synthesizer business then, but just on his own, building small quantities of synths, but still not being able to officially use his name. And Tom gave me my first job in this industry. I worked as an engineer designing Oberheim products from 1980 to 85. And it always seemed, for me and for many people, wrong that Tom didn't have the right to use his own name. And so that was a process that started about 10 years ago, actually, in trying to get Tom's name back for himself. It was complicated because in recent years, Oberheim has been owned by different people in different countries. But over a long period of time, we managed to prevail, and now, as of last summer, Tom has his name and logo back. In the meantime, you know, Tom, of course, has continued to have a great passion for synthesizers, and but he is 85 years old. So after all that time, you know, it's 85 is usually a little late in life to start a new company. So we're really fortunate that there was already a great relationship between Tom and Dave Smith at Sequential, and I've known Dave as well since the introduction of the Prophet 5. We've always had a really great relationship. And of course, Tom and Dave had collaborated on the OB-X8 prior. So we talked with Dave about, wouldn't it be great to bring back truly authentic Oberheim polyphonic synthesizers and to partner with Sequential to bring it to life, because they have a great engineering team, and of course they can do manufacturing and sales and distribution and service and so on. So Tom's vision is able to come back to life here in the OB-X8.
When this development started, so how long was the progress from the drawings to today?
Yeah, well, it started in 1979 with the original OB-X, but this version, the bulk of the work, you know, we started talking about this as a product before we even knew we could use the name. But in earnest, it was a really good team with Sequential engineers and some Oberheim engineers. And for the past year, it's been quite involved in development. So the bulk of the work happened in the last year.
So it's almost everything done in 1 year.
Yes. But remember that this is not, I joke when I say it started in 1979. I mean, that's because, you know, this was able to be done in a year because it's based on those original circuits and with people who actually were involved in designing it back then. So we have all the original machines, the original schematics, even the original software from these units, and could make sure that this was really faithfully recreating 100% the pure analog audio path from those original designs.
Give you maybe the people how much was the involvement of Tom Oberheim? He designed the circuits now for the synth, or it was more the say, I want to see this in this?
Well, you know, he was obviously very deeply involved in designing the original circuits, so that's really the foundation. So when it's like the SEM filters and the discrete oscillators, you could say Tom designed it because we're starting with his schematics. But other engineers, you know, adapted it to this new layout, and then Tom, you know, obviously, you know, was involved in what it should be and playing the unit and making sure it sounded like a true Oberheim.
Because one of my viewers or also friends has said, he asked, is it based on the OB-X8 platform?
No, it's not.
So it's a
It's a
completely
whole new
new
platform, yeah.
It's an all new.
Yeah.
Okay, and so most of the a lot of work is done by sequential team.
Yeah, it's a fantastic group of engineers. One of them, Tony Karavidas, is a sequential engineer. He also worked at Oberheim during a period of time. So there's a great set of experience, some great software engineers, hardware engineers, mechanical, and so on, and great sound designers and testers. So it was a good-sized team of very experienced synthesizer people who shared this passion for wanting to bring a really authentic Oberheim back to the market.
And what was the main mission for this instrument? What was putting on your first line, and what should it be?
First and foremost, it has to be 100% what these original instruments were.
So it should be analog, polyphonic.
Pure analog signal path, and every feature of all three instruments. I mean, it's really three instruments in one, and being able to then essentially have this be a new instrument because you now can combine elements of the three different synthesizers in ways you couldn't do before. Plus, of course, we added some more modern features that you'd expect in a synthesizer today.
And how do you get it? Because I was super surprised that you are shipping these instruments with original patches from OB-X8, yes. OB-X and OB-8. How is this? So you are putting two filters inside. You can select it, and this must be more inside that it sounds like an OB-X8.
Oh yeah, I mean the entire signal path. So it's first getting the oscillators right. Then of course the signal levels from the oscillators to the filter are crucial. They have to be exactly the same as the original. The filter design, VCAs, etc. And then all of the modulation has to be identical to the originals. But that's the sonic path. Then to get the actual factory presets in, we actually are able to load the original factory cassette data from the OB-X, OB-X8, and OB-8 in. And so these are, now of course the OB-8, they didn't have a display, but these are the names of the presets that were on the original preset charts, that you would get. But if you play A1 on an OB-8, that's what it sounds like, and it's an exact match because we're using the exact same parameter settings and the exact same audio path.
And all three instruments had the same oscillators, yeah?
No, actually they didn't.
Yeah.
That's a good point. The OB-X had discrete oscillators, and from the OB-X8, as well as the OB-SX and OB-8, uses Curtis chip 3340s. So, of course, we could have used both here, but as it turns out, we could not hear any sonic difference between the discrete oscillator and the chip. The chip oscillator, some of the advantages back then was, being able to have temperature compensation built into the chip and so on. But these things aren't as important anymore because we have temperature sensing in the hardware and the microprocessor is able to compensate for that. So the most important thing, of course, is the wave shape, which was identical, and then the amplitude. And of course, the amplitude we made sure was matching the original. So when you are, for example, you can switch the square wave or pulse wave was not the same amplitude between the OB-X and the OB-8. So that's one of the many additional features. So you can select the right, yes, because it has to be the exact relationship if you want it to sound exactly the same through the filter.
Because I see this interface is very, very hands-on, like the typical Oberheim, but you put all these extra little things inside the menu.
Exactly. Oberheim was always a performance instrument, and it's just you want to be able to just grab a knob and play, right? But there's of course a lot more to it. So we first took the inspiration from the OB-8, which had a page 2 feature. And, at the time we couldn't afford to have a display, but we wanted to add more parameters. So page 2 just put like another layer of features on the knobs. The original OB-8s, it wasn't even labeled what they were, so you had to have a cheat sheet to know what it was. Here we put all the page 2 features on a button near the display and made it much easier because you can just scroll through the parameters in the display. But we also use that same ability to add features. So, for example, adjusting for more of the filter types. We have the high pass, band pass, and notch filters from the SEM.
that's selected here, or selecting which envelope type do you want, the OB-8 versus the OB-X and X8.
This is what we talked before.
Yes.
These are not analog envelopes, or digital ones.
Right. That's an important distinction, and it actually is quite frankly a much better way to go with a product like this. We're able to very accurately create the control voltages of the envelope in software, and that's important because the designs of the analog envelopes were different in the machines, so we want to be able to select the different types and not have the problems, frankly, that the original analog chips had, where you could set up at the gig and get the sound just right, and if the instrument's 10 degrees C hotter, all your envelope times are now going to be shorter. So this provides for a lot more stability. This is, the envelope times operate like it's just always 25 degrees C.
A friend, it's something I personally also think of, and many others. There are two filters inside, the ZEM and the OB-X8.
Right.
You can't use them together.
No, it's intended you select one or the other. I mean, to use them together would make it a very different design, because you'd need to be able to you'd have to add VCAs to potentially mix between them, or however you'd want to control it. We wanted to be faithful to the original design, so it simply switches which filter you want to listen to into the VCA.
And these are all analog. It's all authentic made, yeah. And so, what was then to get, because it's super difficult to match the sound of the units from the past. So the most important things are matching the filter, as I said, the envelopes and the VCA, mostly.
Yeah, all of it. Pretty much everything was a factor starting from the beginning. The oscillator, the wave shapes, the amplitude, the filters, of course, the envelopes, VCA, and modulation. It was all important. So we had, we worked with, I have all of the original units. They're all calibrated exactly to original factory specifications. And I'll have, new capacitors and things, so you don't have to worry about the power supplies. So we had to make sure we could start from exactly what they're supposed to sound like. And then we did measurements from the original instruments, compared the schematics, found sometimes mistakes in the schematics and where it wasn't exactly what the originals were, and made sure we completely matched the signal path. And
would you say to if someone were asking you, should I buy an OB-X8, OB-X vintage one? Should I, or does it do the job?
So I can tell you it's always going to be personal opinion. So first off, I always tell people, buy whatever instrument inspires you. If whatever makes you happy, and it's what makes you make music, that's what you should do. But I own all of them, and I can tell you, for me, this is the very best of them. And it's not a sales pitch. What you have here is the original OB-X, for example. I have it. It sounds fantastic, but the noise floor on the original is not that great. It was the best you could do at that time. But you have noise, you have some bleed of hum, you have some, there's other factors that make it not ideal. Here you have the exact sound, but in a really high quality instrument, where now, of course, with modern components, you don't have a constant noise floor that you're dealing with. So, but if someone can afford the originals, it's kind of like owning an old car. There's if it's a personal interest, it's fantastic. I certainly don't plan on selling my old ones, because they're near and dear to my heart.
I saw photos of your studio. It's impressive.
Oh, thank you.
I think the most important thing in this video is just how does it sound, and I already heard it before. It's like cream. And doesn't require. And often people put reverb on their synths. This synth doesn't need any reverb.
No, you really can just pretty much pick a sound and go. I mean, Oberheim's known for pad type sounds.
have aftertouch. Is a nice addition that we didn't have on the originals. Sorry?
MPE support?
No, it does not.
So you could not attach now an MP controller via USB interface or so?
You can, I mean, you can control it via USB, and it will respond to polyphonic aftertouch.
Okay.
You know, but it's not true MPE.
Bitimbral.
Yes, bitimbral. Yeah.
Bitimbral,
yeah.
Bitimbral, yeah.
It's bitimbral.
How does it work with the voice allocation? You can have two patches of 4, or?
Yes, it's just like the original OB-X8 and OB-8. It's set up as 2 sets of 4. So you can do that as a split keyboard if you want. So you can layer any 2 sounds that you want by just selecting a sound on lower or
so
upper.
This is fixed to 2 times 4?
2 times 4, always 2 times 4.
Okay.
And since you've got programmable panning, which you didn't have on the originals, everything was manual panning, you can choose to set it up so that you know, your 4 voices are coming left and 4 voices right, or have them panned back and forth if you want.
Are you in the middle of a demo?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, move over here.
That's Mr. Dave Smith. How are you?
I'm good. Please, talk
So
to
you-
the master. He's the expert.
So it's an instrument that is soon available, very soon.
Yes, yeah, we plan to be in production next month,
How was the challenge to bring all this together in the pandemic? You know, with this chip crisis, prices of the chips are become higher.
everyone has difficulty in getting parts. Again, working with Sequential really helped because they've been having to deal with this for some time and making sure they can get parts for all the Prophet synthesizers, all the sequential synthesizers. So, you know, early on when we started working on this, they worked to make sure that we'd have parts available to make them. It's still difficult to get parts, but we don't expect that to hold us up.
So it's coming next month.
Yes.
And the price will be in.
It's approximately $5,000. Yeah.
Okay, and it comes. It has an internal power supply. I read. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a big plus. Yeah.
Power supply is built in.
It comes with all the patch. I think sound design made some known people. I think from the synth community. JPO.
Yeah. A number of great sound designers worked on the factory preset.
And not to forget, you also built in the typical Oberheim.
Yeah, these are great. Obviously it'll be new for some people, but it's I've always been fond of these levers. I mean, what's nice, traditional wheels, obviously they're the standard. People get very used to them, but quite honestly, they're a little awkward when you think about playing. You can develop that skill. Here, what's interesting, some people say it's backwards. It bends up when you go forward and bends down when you go backwards. If you don't like that, we of course put in a global feature. You can swap it if you want. But what's nice is you can set any interval, and it makes it very easy to with one finger, you can just play like that, and that's a little trickier to do on a wheel. And if you wanted to do a a bigger interval, you can do an octave. That's a little tricky to do on a wheel. And then, of course, the other lever's modulation. You can decide one or both oscillators. So now with 2 fingers, you can very easily go.
It's different experience than the mod wheel.
Yeah, it is different. I mean, obviously, I grew up on Oberheim levers from the OB-X all the way through the Matrix 12, Matrix 6. They all had levers. There are people who are just amazing with wheels, and more power to them. But I think if people give this a try, they'll find, boy, that's a lot easier. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about your wrists. It's just 2 little fingers.
Okay, and it's made of real.
Yeah, walnut ends and solid metal panels, and it's built
Fantastic.
built to withstand
Fantastic.
the road life.
A synthesizer, I think many people are looking forward.
I think so. Yes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for
My
this
pleasure.
interview, and I wish you good luck with the first new Oberheim synthesizer. And it will be not limited, yeah, not really limited like the previous Oberheims.
No. When Tom was making them himself, obviously it was very limited. This will be, and
A regular product,
It'll be
yeah.
a regular product from the sequential, and that way they'll make lots. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and I wish you a good Superbooth 22 the rest of the hours.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Bye, and hope to see you again in the next anatomy videos. Bye.